comfortable with you. I feel like
The Calgary Flames lock in their captain. The Toronto Blue Jays look to lock in a series win against the Tampa Bay Rays, and we try to lock in ahead of Thursday Night Football. It is Couch Potato Diary Live, and it starts right now. Welcome, everyone, to Couch Potato Diary. Happy Thursday. My name is Peter Klein. Thank you very much for hanging out today. Gonna have a split schedule for everyone today. So, again, in classic me fashion, I was like, yeah, 10 o'clock tomorrow. Let's go for the stream. I forgot that the Blue Jays game was at 11. So, we're gonna go right up until the start of the Blue Jays game, get everything in that we can before that. Then I'm going to watch the Blue Jays get, not together. I'm not going to do the live stream because I don't know how well any of that would hold up on my end. But after the Jays game is done, we'll hop back on the streams and talk some more football, Blue Jays, all of those things. So this is going to be a sprint for the next half hour. Doesn't mean I don't want to hear from you guys, though. Throw in any questions, comments, concerns you have in the chat. As always, we're presented by Sea of Dead. Check out seaofdead403.ca for that great Calgary swag. The Jerome shirts are out. They're being, you've either picked them up already or they're out for delivery. I'm going to be making some deliveries tonight myself. So get your shirts while, I was going to say while supplies last, but we're actually re-upping and getting some more in because it's been really cool to see how many people are out there supporting Kids Sport. Again, all the proceeds from that going to Kids Sport. And get your energy with Swift Energy. Head over to swiftenergy.gg. Use the code PKPrimetime. Some great flavors, some great fuel, some really good drinks to help you out with the focus for whatever you have going on. Wasn't necessarily anticipating starting this way, but Connor D in the YouTube chat asking about Mikael Backlund's extension, and what Connor D wants, Connor D gets. So let's talk Calgary Flames and let's talk extensions, as the Flames have been getting a lot of that work done, and now they get it done with their captain. But should they have? Let's talk about it. So, the NHL season is basically upon us, and we are getting a few more contracts figured out around the league. And so today, or yesterday, I guess it was actually right when we were done the show, which I felt personally attacked by. The Calgary Flames lock in Mikael Backlund, and so just trying to pull up the exact particulars on this contract here so I don't screw anything up. There it is. Backlund, it is a 2-year contract worth $3.25 million, a no move in the first year, and a no movement clause in a modified no trade in the second year. Full no move through 2027 to a 10-team no-trade clause starting January 1st, 2028. So a bit of a, hey, we might be bad still, insurance on that one. And Connor D in the YouTube chat saying, can we hear some thoughts on the Backlund extension? I like it, but probably wouldn't do it myself if this was franchise mode, but I'm cold-blooded when it comes to that. And I do think that there is a little bit of that in play here. For me personally, I like it. I think that Backlund is such a valuable part of the Flames, and we've talked about it for years, right? Like whoever plays with Backlund and whoever, whether it's Backlund and Frolik or Backlund and Coleman, whoever plays with them, they get the best out of themselves, right? Like they find their absolute peak form, it feels like, with Backlund and Coleman, and then that allows them to go up and do some other things. It's why I wasn't overly upset when now Edmonton Oiler Andrew Mangiapane was sent out the door, because his best years were with Backlund and Coleman, and then he would go away from them, and not a whole lot would happen beyond that. So I like it. I like having that kind of certainty there. I like having Backlund around still and everything like that. I do also think that the salary cap number works, like 3.25. You're absolutely getting your value out of that. That is bordering on a steal for Backlund. And even if the bottom absolutely falls out, it's still not going to be overly inhibiting for Mikael Backlund. So, or for the Flames. So I like it. I think for everyone, it makes a whole lot of sense. But there is a little bit of the cold-blooded nature with some of these discussions, because you look at what the Flames are trying to do. They are from all accounts, a rebuilding hockey team, right? Like I know they're going to say retool or whatever, but this is a rebuilding team. And locking in 36, 37, 38-year-olds, generally not what rebuilding teams do, right? So you can understand why there would be some who it's like, yeah, I wouldn't do this deal. And specifically Connor on franchise mode. Like, yeah, maybe not. Probably not. But I do think the real life aspect of it, where this is someone who, again, it feels a bit overdone with the Flames, but this is someone who wants to be here with Calgary. So there's that value in this. And again, like I said before, from an on-ice standpoint, he has been so good at getting the most out of guys. And so having that guy, instead of just having a bunch of kids running around, having Backlund be an adult in the room, and having him be someone who younger players can lean on, who younger players can kind of have as a safety net where, okay, it's not going great right now. Let's put him with Backlund and Coleman and just get them back on their feet and go. I think that is an incredibly valuable piece for a young hockey team to have that guy. Like when it was Crosby going to Stanley Cups early on, remember there was Guerin and there was Recchi kind of showing Sidney Crosby the ropes, right? And now I'm not saying that Backlund is Guerin or Recchi, nor am I saying anyone on the Flames is Sidney Crosby, but to have that veteran presence there, to allow your kids to kind of have that safety net, to be able to maybe not have their best hockey going and know that there's going to be something there to kind of catch them and help them out with that. I think having that around from a real life standpoint makes a whole lot of sense. From a video game, I don't know if I would have done it either, because of what we've talked about. He is an aging player and you are a rebuilding hockey club. But I think because you are rebuilding and you're going to have quite a few kids filtering through, having Backlund, who has kind of seen it all, right? Like he went from highly touted prospect to why isn't this highly touted prospect producing more, to oh, this guy's actually one of the best third line centers in the National Hockey League, and now incredibly valuable piece and now captain, right? Like he has kind of ridden that roller coaster. So did he come in with the same expectations that if the Flames get Gavin McKenna that he is going to have? No. But for the most part, Backlund's seen everything that these guys are going to be going through. And so to help out some young kids figuring out the center position, to have some kids just going through not reaching expectations, having injury problems, doing all these things, Backlund knows it and he has seen it all and can be kind of that mentor for a lot of the guys in the room. So on the ice, I think Backlund lives up to this contract. Off the ice, I think it's an absolute no-brainer to keep the captain of the Flames around for the next 3 seasons. And then once that deal is done, Mackenzie Weegar probably gets the C thrown onto his shoulder, and the Flames are off and running that way. So I think it's a great move for Calgary. I think it makes a whole lot of sense. You look at training camp today, Steinberg tweeting out the lines that we're all very excited about, and you see Connor Zary with Backlund and Coleman. I think that's a perfect spot right now. I still want to see what Zary can do down the middle, and so that's why I've said I would like to see him play center with Backlund on the wing, along with Coleman, and just let the kid get the ropes there. But I think because of the high-level talent that I believe Zary has and the frustration that he had a season ago, starting him with Backlund is the perfect spot. And so that's why, again, having him around is so valuable. Just a couple other notes from that. I do think it's noteworthy that Coronado is starting with Huberdeau and Kadri. I know that Klapka got a lot out of that a season ago, but I do like sometimes instead of, well, let's have a pair, and then because that's our top line, we can spread things out a little bit and have not a top six player with them, like a Klapka, so to speak, or, I mean, thousands of examples of that sort of thing, right? Like Ensign Carter with the Sedins, Alex Burrows with the Sedins, I'm sure there are other non-Sedin ones like that, but even like when it was Goudreau and Monahan, like, I think Yuri Hudler certainly was one of these things, is not like the other sort of a player, and they were able to get the most out of him. So I understand that, but sometimes it's great when it's just, these are our three dudes, so let's put them there. Coronado has that scoring touch. He has the contract now of a guy who could be a high-level scoring winger in the NHL, so put him on your first line. I think that makes a lot of sense. The one thing that jumps out to me, and this is one of the things we have talked about around all the controversies this year with this particular player, Zayne Parekh paired up with Jake Bean hurt my eyeballs to see. And this is where the Rasmus Andersson thing becomes a problem. Because I think for this season, and probably several after, I think Zayne Parekh and Kevin Ball should be the group. That should be the pairing that this team rolls out there with. But because you have Rasmus Andersson there, those guys work well together. I don't know if the Flames, and I was worried they weren't going to do it. I still would have had Parekh with Ball to start, and then Rasmus with whoever, Pahal, I guess it would be, to roll out there and just kind of do your thing. To have, and now this is 100% overreaction time, right? It is the first group of training camp. The Flames sometimes have different lineups from day to day. They sometimes have different lineups from the warm-up into the hockey game. So to overreact to one grouping is a little extreme. But I think everything this year for Calgary on the blue line needs to be focused about getting that kid, Zayne Parekh, as ready as possible for the start of the season and to start his journey as a star in the National Hockey League. And I personally don't think that is with Jake Bean. So I get a little frustrated, and this is where the Andersson thing comes in, because with Rasmus still there, it now pushes Parekh down, because you're still trying to trade Andersson, and you're not going to have him as a third-line defenseman third-pairing defenseman, while you're trying to trade him. And you also don't want it to become a big distraction in the room and put your kid in an awkward position the same way you did with Dustin Wolf a couple of seasons ago. So it creates this awkward thing where if you could just, again, love Rasmus, love the style, love everything about the dude, but if you could just get him frick out of here so that you can have Parekh go into the spot that we all know he's going to play at some point anyway. I just think that it's just creating an awkward situation, and it is really kind of getting in the way of a lot of the progress that you want to be making this year. So I would like it if the Rasmus Andersson trade could happen post-haste, because it's clunky and it's awkward, and it creates, I think, some weird dynamics in training camp and with the roster at the start of the season to try to figure out where all the pieces kind of fit in for the Flames. So a lot to cover with this Calgary team right now. We're going to have a lot more hockey as the day goes on, as the weeks go on, and then leading to the start of the regular season. If you have more hockey thoughts, let me know in the chat. Fire them away in there, and we will kind of keep this thing going as we can. We are going to pivot away from this now, but if you want to talk hockey, throw them in the chat. I'll talk about it, and then, or I'll talk about whatever I'm talking about at that time, and then we will get to whatever you want to get to. Of course, this is another live stream on a few different platforms. We're going to be live again following the Blue Jays game today against the Tampa Bay Rays as we get ready for a busy weekend ahead. Let's move now to the Thursday night game in the National Football League, as the Buffalo Bills are on fire to start the season. The Miami Dolphins are a tire fire to start the NFL regular season, and now they collide tonight. Could we see a gigantic upset? Probably not, but maybe, but probably not. But let's talk about it anyway. It is the start of week 3 in the National Football League, and it feels like a wild mismatch on Thursday night with the Buffalo Bills taking on the Dolphins of Miami. And I think the big part of the mismatch happens when Buffalo has the football. This Bills offense has been on fire as they scored 41 points rather notably, in the opener, and then another 30 on the Jets last week. And every part of the offense seems to be clicking. They are running the ball very effectively. They are throwing the ball really well. Josh Allen looks like Superman once again. So everything going right for the Bills. On the Miami side, they got absolutely torched by Daniel Jones and followed that up by getting assaulted by Drake May and Ramondre Stevenson. So this doesn't seem like it's going to go well. This feels like a Buffalo scores on every possession sort of a game. I think that the Bills are going to just have an absolute time in this one. The spread is 11.5. We'll talk about that a little bit more here in a second, but that is where people are feeling this game is going to go. I am fascinated, though, about the other side of the ball. When Miami has it, with their offense going up against the Bills' defense, the Bills got torched by the Ravens and then absolutely shut down the New York Jets. Now, those teams are on opposite ends of the spectrum, obviously, but I am curious to know which version of the Buffalo Bills is actually the Buffalo Bills. Like, which one of the things that we've seen through 2 weeks is correct, which is accurate, which is what this team actually, is. And I know when you watch the first couple of weeks, it is a little bit foolish almost to say, well, the Miami Dolphins, they'll be fine. Everything's going to be okay. Because, that looked atrocious in week 1 against the Colts defense that then gave up 28 and needed a penalty flag on a 60-yard field goal to be able to win that game. And they looked better against the New England defense that made the Raiders offense look pretty good compared to what they looked like on Monday against the Chargers. So there's a lot of NFL math going on there, but the one thing that I am a little bit interested in is, again, this Dolphins offense. Can they test the Bills on defense? Because you see Buffalo, obviously the issues that they had were in the run game against Baltimore, which get in line. But they had trouble against the run there, and there were some big passes that were able to be made down the field that kind of caused them some problems. Well, Achane is obviously a different runner than Derrick Henry, but Henry was able to get to the outside and just outrun a lot of the tackles, whether it be linebackers or defensive backs in the second level for the Buffalo Bills. That would concern me with the speed of Achane being able to come into this one. And then, again, Lamar Jackson able to hit a couple of good passes down the field to stretch that defense out. Well, Tua and Tyreek Hill haven't really been in the same novel, let alone the same page, but this is still an offense that, in theory, can do that. So I do think that this is... It's not the test for the Bills, but it is a test for this Bills defense. If they are an average defense, they should pass this test with flying colors today. But if this defense is more what we saw week 1 against Baltimore, this is a team that can expose that at least a little bit. So that's where I'm interested to see what the Bills do tonight. If they come out and dominate Miami, I don't think we can come on here and say, okay, that's a good Bills defense. But if they have trouble with this game, I think we can really start to see where some of those cracks would start to show on the Bills and where we can start to really kind of pinpoint in that, okay, maybe this Bills defense isn't very good. So would have some concerns there for sure. Hey, Deeds in the Twitch chat. Hello. Thanks for hanging out today. And again, thanks for the gifted subs that you gave out a couple of days ago. Again, greatly appreciate that. So I think this one is a really interesting matchup for the reasons that I just laid out. Can the speed of the Dolphins on offense create at least some of the problems that the Baltimore Ravens were able to create on the first big night of the season on Sunday Night Football? So I'm really, really interested to see what that looks like. As far as the picks go, I will say the whole stamp of this thing from the beginning is a pick per game. And obviously missed that last week because your boy got the travel plans mixed up, we'll say, and thought I was leaving on a Friday, leaving on a Thursday, kind of threw everything out of whack. So to make up for it, still going to have the right amount of picks. We're going to do 2 picks per game this week. And so my 2 picks on this one, the first one may be a little bit surprising because of the issues that the Ravens have, or sorry, that the Dolphins have on the defensive side. I'm going under 50.5 for this game. I think the reasons for this are a couple. One, I just talked about how Miami, I think, has at least some of the weapons that they can give the Bills defense some of the problems that the Ravens did. Some, not all. I don't have any faith in the Miami offense. On a short week, too, I don't have any faith in the Miami offense being able to do anything. This is a Bills defense that has game planned for this team before and has been able to shut it down very effectively. So that's one reason I'm going with the under. The other is something we've talked about at length on this program. The Bills, it felt like they had about 75 plays in the red zone last week and then finally able to crack through. They do have some of the weapons to be able to have some big explosive plays, right? Across the board. Allen has the arm that can do it for days. Coleman can be that type of a guy. Dalton Kincaid can bust some big plays off, and James Cook can as well. But this is a team that really does kind of value that methodical approach to the offense and just working the ball down the field. And again, I understand I'm talking about a team that had 81 points in their game in week number 1, but Buffalo has frustrated me at times when they face lesser teams and they still control the ball and control the clock as if they are the lesser team and trying to limit the amount of possessions that there are in a game. So I think the Bills' pace that they play at and the Dolphins not holding up their end of the bargain is going to give the under the play here in this one right now at 50.5. And the other one that I'm looking at is James Cook over 70.5 rushing yards. He had 140 last week against the New York Jets. Now, looking at the teams that have played Miami so far, the Colts were able to do anything they wanted against them and kind of ditto with New England. And I think the main thing here is I expect Buffalo to be ahead in this game by quite a lot. And so I think they're going to run the ball pretty significantly in this game. So I think that Cook is going to get his over at 70.5. And this is even baking in some garbage time for Davis at the end of it. I still think Cook, I would be very surprised if at the end of the night, Cook doesn't get to 70.5 rushing yards. Admittedly, I picked that one kind of quick. If you want to go out and look for a better number of rushing and receiving yards combined, I think that could be a different play as well because of how active Cook can be in the passing game. And it does just kind of bake in a little bit of insurance there in case Davis does come in late, but you can still get some in the passing game early on. So maybe take a look at that as well. So that is the pick there for the Bills against the Miami Dolphins. But what about the fantasy aspect of this one? Let's talk about it. All right, Thursday Night Football, Bills taking on the Miami Dolphins. What are we looking at from a fantasy perspective? The Bills side is very easy for me. Start everybody. You are starting Allen. You are starting Cook. You are starting Keon Coleman. You are, in fact, starting Dalton Kincaid. Matt Prater, try to get him in there as well. Bills defense, I know we laid out in the game preview a little bit of a concern that the speed factor for Miami could play into this game, but still, Bills defense, I'm willing to take the chances on that. I think they're going to lock it down. If you have someone with a little BUF beside their name, you're throwing them in to this game. If you have their water boy in a water boy league, water boy's going to be busy today because that team's going to be running up and down the field on them. So Buffalo Bills, you're starting everybody there. We had someone message in on the chat yesterday asking about Dalton Kincaid or Mark Andrews. And I've said Kincaid is a breakout candidate for me this season, so I'm pretty high on the dude anyway, but I think that he has an opportunity to have a very big game this week. So Kincaid is an absolute lock for me. And honestly, some people don't like to do it, but if we're doing like a Thursday to Monday or even Thursday to Sunday DraftKings thing, Kincaid would be one of the guys that I would pick. I just think there's a lot of value in that play for him right now. On the Dolphins side, Achane is an auto play. Tyreek Hill, I can understand not wanting to because of the struggles that this offense has had, but I think you still have to put Hill and Waddle in there. We're not going any tight ends in this one. And the Tua play, I gave it some thought because, like we talked about before, the Bills defense got torched one week and then didn't the next. So we're not sure what this Bills defense is yet. And if Tua is right, and if Tua can get going, then he can beat this Bills defense in some of the ways that Lamar was able to in week one with, quite frankly, better weapons than Lamar has in the passing game anyway, out in Baltimore. So you can see a world where starting Tua could make sense. I'm not willing to take that chance right now. That I need to see it look good again for Miami before I'm even considering putting Tua in my lineup. I'll let you know, I'm in a 16-team league, and I kind of screwed up draft time. It's a keeper league, and one thing that we have noted in this league is that if you don't keep a quarterback, it's death. Like, whatever reason, however the teams handle their whatever, but not keeping a quarterback is a very big hindrance. And I had Tua, and so I kept him. And then in the draft, the quarterback spot, because that's how I normally do it. Quarterback spot's filled, don't need to worry about that. And should have got a backup for him. So I was kind of stuck with him. Week one, still able to win, thank God. But went out, got Russell Wilson. Obviously, that worked out well for me in week number 2. I don't think Wilson's going to have that good of a week in week number 3 against Kansas City, and I'm still putting him in over Tua. I need to see it work. I need to know that this can happen for Tua, because it looks so bad right now with that quarterback and that offense in Miami. So Tua is probably a no-go for me in this one this week. So those are the fantasy picks for this week in the NFL, for this Thursday in the NFL. Coming up, for those watching on the stream, it's going to be after the Blue Jays game. For those in podcast form, it's going to be on Friday. We are going to be looking at every game in the NFL in this way. So get your questions ready for all of that. All right, we have 9 minutes to go before the baseball gets rolling. So we're not going to do Blue Jays on here because it's going to be dated the second that game starts. So we'll just say, big one for the Jays. Frustrating night last night. Bats didn't really get going, but Kevin Gausman looks awesome. So there's that. Let's go now to, probably not going to get to the wrestling stuff on this one for those watching the stream. So apologies for that. We'll definitely get to it on the stream after the Jays game coming up around 2 o'clock, we'll say. But I've had this ready for a little bit, and just everything keeps kind of popping up and getting in the way. But I want to get to it now. As we enter the final stretch in the Canadian Football League, I have a question. 9 of them, actually. 1 per team. These are the biggest questions facing each CFL team as we go into the final few weeks of the regular season. All right, we have just a few weeks to go in the CFL season, and so today I thought a good time look, it's close. No one's out of it. No one's running away with much right now. This is a very important time for all of these teams, and so I have the biggest question facing each team in the Canadian Football League. Let's start with the Ottawa Red Blacks. My biggest question for Ottawa, and you could ask a few, but my biggest question is Bob Dyce the man for the job with the Red Blacks? I understand, like, this season, injuries have been a big problem, specifically at quarterback. They're getting Drew Brown back, we're presuming, for the game again. We're not presuming, we know. Drew Brown is coming back for Ottawa in their huge game with Winnipeg on Saturday, right? Saturday, yeah. So that is going to help, obviously, because this is an offense that has struggled at times with Crum in there, and they have not necessarily done themselves any favors. And that's the part that sticks with me, is yes, injuries have been a problem. Absolutely, they have been. And I would suggest that aside from Montreal, they've had the biggest ones. But I mean, you look at it, Montreal has had injuries at quarterback. Toronto started the year with an injury at quarterback, and they are able to make their way through. Edmonton hasn't. They've just had general incompetence as a problem at quarterback. BC had an injury at QB. Winnipeg perpetually has injuries at quarterback. Calgary has had an injury at quarterback for a game, and Saskatchewan had one as well. Everyone has them. Ottawa has had them to a greater extent than most. Absolutely they have. But all these teams have had to deal with it. there's a couple of reasons why I'm asking about Bob Dyce right now. A, this continued reliance on Crum to come into these when we kind of feel like we know what the kid is at this point, and maybe you want to see something else. Now, I say that and then went out and got the job done a couple of weeks ago, but I do think that there is more that they could have tried at the quarterback spot with Drew Brown being out. The second is some of the in-game management. It continues to boggle my mind, some of the decisions that Ottawa continues to make as the years go on. And so I just wonder, even if healthy, is their coach right now the right guy to get them over the hump? I have some serious questions about that. Let's go now to Montreal, and their biggest question right now is, will they get healthy enough in time for the playoffs? And that is so far trending in the right direction, right? With Philpott coming back, Mack coming back. But you look at it this week, there's a ton that they're still missing on the defensive side. And at quarterback with Davis Alexander. Last week, McLeod Bethel-Thompson showed that he can at least take advantage of a mismatch out on the field and get them a win. But when you are going into the playoffs and you are dealing with, he is either going to be in a just Wild West shootout with presumably Chad Kelly, Nathan Rourke, or Zach Collaros. He's fourth on that list. So that's the concern there for Montreal. Davis Alexander, they've never lost with him at quarterback. So are they going to get him healthy enough for the postseason? Because I have said it all year, the rest of this roster is championship caliber. It is just, can they get enough out of the quarterback spot? And it's not just, can they get Alexander healthy? It is, can they get him healthy in time to get him playoff ready? Because speeding up for the regular season is one thing, but having to get just parachuted back in for the playoffs, that is an entirely different thing. And we will see where Montreal can get to with that. On the Toronto side, like I said, I prepped these a little bit ago, and so right now, the one that I have is, are the Argos ever going to get a stop again? The defense has been a major issue for them. That continues to be the case for the record, but they are now getting enough stops, and I maybe even shouldn't put the plural on that. They are getting the one stop a game that they need to be able to win these. But I think, to me, the biggest question with Toronto, it has to be at the quarterback spot. With, like, what do you do with Arbuckle and with Chad Kelly? Kelly has been hyping up his return, but apparently still isn't ready, because this would be the spot with Arbuckle out with an injury and the team starting to play pretty well. This would be the spot for Chad Kelly to come in, but instead, it ain't him this week for Toronto. So I just don't know what they're going to do. With both of these guys healthy, it seems like they finally figured out what is the best way to use Nick Arbuckle, and that is to let's just sling this thing around and see what happens. But I don't think anyone would tell you that Kelly is a worse quarterback than Nick Arbuckle is, but they're figuring out how to win with him now, and they are getting themselves into a spot where, like, they could be a playoff team. It's a huge game that they have coming up this weekend with Montreal, but, I mean, if they win that, they are right there. They are clearing the tiebreaker teams, or the crossover team, sorry, and they're now into a tie with Montreal for second in the East Division. So, playoffs are absolutely still a possibility. Every game is going to be huge for Toronto. And Kelly played very well when he came back a season ago. What do you do with him now when he comes back this season, given that everything is kind of running on time now for the Argos, and every detail is so important at this time? I had these in the way of the power rankings when I did them, so we'll stick east-west here. Let's go Hamilton, and it is, can the defense do enough? This offense is fantastic, and we know this. Bo has been just lighting it up again at quarterback. They have weapons all over the field there. When they win these games, though, it is when the defense finds their stride. The defense has been so hit and miss this season. When we get to the big games, when it is Montreal or Toronto, BC, Winnipeg, Calgary, Saskatchewan, depending on how far they get, can the defense slow those teams down enough to allow this potentially elite level and championship level offense do the thing that they need to do? So I think that's, right now, that is the biggest question facing the Hamilton Tiger Cats. We are right up against it on the Blue Jays game, so we're going to stop there. We'll get the West questions. We'll get the West questions in the second part of the stream coming up after the Blue Jays game. So we're going to take a break now. We're going to hang out. Everyone can watch the Jays game. I'll be tweeting about it and all that. And then we will reconvene once the game is done. And we'll talk more NFL, CFL. We got wrestling previews to get to and a whole lot more from the hockey world as well. So as always, you can follow me on social media. I am at Primetime Klein on Instagram, Twitter, X, Spotify, or not Spotify. I'm sorry, looking at I don't know why I thought the TikTok logo was Spotify, but X, Instagram, TikTok, Threads, Blue Sky, all of those things. You can find me on social media. You can find this show as a podcast on Spotify or on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your pods. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, leave a review for me on there. It really, really does help out. If you are watching, thank you so much for doing so. Hit follow or subscribe, and check out cfdead403.ca for the great Calgary swag. Head over to swiftenergy.gg, use the code PKPrimetime for your 25% off some great drinks that'll help fuel your next gaming session. And let's talk after the Jays game, shall we? Have a great next few hours, everybody.